in Britain. I kid you not. How can this be real? They are releasing convicted pedophiles from prison in order to put people in prison for Facebook posts.
To be fair, those are posts that criticize the government, so they have good reason.
They would actually, some of these posts that at least the ones I've seen, didn't actually criticize the government. Well, they were seen as hate speech.
Because they noticed the society getting crappier and crappier with every year.
There were migrant gangs in England that would run around and prey on young girls. Some people found that objectionable. They were upset about that. And so they complained about it online and were sent to prison. That sounds crazy.
What happens when one of the bravest and most outspoken billionaires on the planet decides to publicly challenge the head of state? This is exactly what happened when Elon Musk tweeted to British Prime Minister Keir Starmer with a sharp criticism of his priorities. The question he asked, why not all communities in the country receive proper protection, instantly exploded public opinion. Starmer's critics, including such prominent public figures as Jeremy Kyle, could not contain their disappointment. How can we focus on housing and support for illegal immigrants when many Britons are struggling with real difficulties? This causes anger and confusion. Does Starmer really put the interests of the wrong people first? And what is really going on in the UK? Questions that need answers, and society craves justice.
The news.
Well, the obvious conclusion one has to get to is that the British government is bringing people from dubious and very doubtful countries and cultures into the United States in their millions, and these people are bringing cultures that are totally unassimilable with British culture, with English culture, and obviously there's going to be a problem. It's not a rocket science problem. It's very simple.
Well, he's good at rocket science. But has Elon spoke to you about it? And is he thinking that they may shut down Twitter, or because there's always been rumours that they may try and stop it in the UK?
No. We wouldn't shut anything down. We don't work.
Elon Musk's tweet turned out to be not just a simple, but a truly powerful statement. He openly addressed Keir Starmer with a sharp question: why are all communities in the UK not receiving proper protection? Musk persistently asked, shouldn't you be concerned about attacks on all people, regardless of their background? It is unlikely that every day someone with such power as Musk, a man worshipped by millions around the world, expresses his opinion about the internal politics of another country. Musk's words caused a storm of emotions across the UK, who began to ask the same exciting question. The tweet spread across the web with incredible speed, instantly finding a response from people who felt that their worries and fears went completely unnoticed. Musk's influence brought this pressing issue to the forefront of social media, and soon thousands of people began enthusiastically supporting his opinion. They couldn't help but wonder, why did Starmer focus all his efforts on supporting illegal immigrants, while those who have been putting their soul and work into the development of the country for years seem to be ignored? The issue raised by Musk concerns not only politics but also the fundamental principles of justice. When a leader prefers one group over another, especially to the detriment of the working class, an alarming question arises: who does the government really serve?
Andrew, because this is what's been bubbling under the surface for so long. This is why the anti-immigration protesters are so angry, and the more that they keep being called racists and bigots, the more that pressure cooker continues to boil. And as we've seen in the last week, it's absolutely exploded. And what we've seen with Keir Starmer's response, as well as the mainstream media in the UK, is this guilt that gets thrust upon white people who are historically perceived to have privilege, and therefore no, it can't possibly be the fault of ethnic minorities or migrants. It's this perception of unconscious bias. Therefore, it's so easy and safe for Keir Starmer to take that safe route and not say we need to look after all communities. It's just all about the migrant communities. And you can't just lump everybody into this far right category when there are so many people who are genuinely concerned about the state of migration, which has clearly failed in the UK, and the state of...
Musk's question becomes even more impressive against the background of Starmer's silence. His lack of response only reinforces the feeling that he is trying to avoid this important topic. In politics, silence often sounds louder than any words. People notice when leaders shy away from pressing issues, and in this case, Starmer's inaction only increased the frustration. For many, this silence is perceived as ignoring their struggle. Although Musk is not a resident of the UK, his question reflects the feelings that many citizens have been experiencing for several months. They feel forgotten. Starmer's silence has only added fuel to the fire of their discontent, and more people are beginning to doubt his true commitment to the interests of British citizens and legal residents. Starmer's lack of reaction is not just a political mistake, it is a serious blow to his reputation. When a leader decides to ignore real problems, it raises doubts about his priorities.
I am finding that in Keir Starmer's Britain, I'm worried, for the first time in my life, about freedom of speech. I mean, the freedom of everybody to say what they innocently think, even if it turns out not to be true, and the freedom of people to use ordinary English words about subjects like illegal immigration when they know that they're telling the truth. To find out more, read my column in the Daily Mail.
One of the loudest and most painful criticisms of the Starmer government has been its approach to immigration. Under his leadership, we are witnessing an alarming shift towards providing resources, such as housing and financial support, to people entering the UK illegally. This causes anger and bewilderment among many, because such an approach, in fact, puts the interests of illegal immigrants above the rights of citizens and legal residents who have worked for years, paid taxes and invested in the development of society. It is becoming commonplace to hear stories about how housing assistance is provided to illegal immigrants, sometimes even in hotels or municipal housing, while the country's indigenous people, especially working-class people, are facing unprecedented increases in housing prices. This creates a feeling of deep injustice and causes a storm of emotions. Many believe that Starmer's policy creates a shocking imbalance in which those who enter the country illegally receive privileges not available to those who legally live and work here. As a result, the cost of housing has skyrocketed. The increased demand for housing caused by immigration support has led to a sharp increase in prices, and now housing has become almost inaccessible to working-class citizens. People who have worked all their lives are now faced with a terrible reality. They can't afford even the most basic necessities. Many believe that such close attention to the support of illegal immigrants creates an unbearable burden on public resources, leaving permanent residents to fend for themselves. The reaction of the society was furious and full of indignation. People ask in disbelief, why do their hard-earned taxes go to help those who did not contribute to the system, while they themselves are struggling to make ends meet?
When Blair opened the borders and had everybody in, because apparently we need people in this country to do those jobs, that presumably sent a message to the people who weren't that keen on working or weren't there, to just stay at home. I think we should be encouraging, nay forcing in some instances, these people out of their houses, and there must be jobs. There must be things that they can do to give back to our society.
Working-class citizens are experiencing financial pressures that have become unbearable. Rising housing costs are just the tip of the iceberg. The real disaster is hidden deeper. Due to the lack of public resources, it is becoming increasingly difficult for people to access vital services, such as health and education. Many working families are barely making ends meet, and the additional financial burden of higher taxes only exacerbates their suffering. These taxes often go to fund services that support the flow of immigrants, which makes citizens feel like they are paying for benefits they will never see. For those who have worked for the good of their country all their lives, it looks like a betrayal, like a stab in the back.
And let me also say to large social media companies and those who run them, violent disorder clearly whipped up online, that is also a crime. It's happening on your premises, and the law must be upheld everywhere. That is the single most important duty of government. Service rests on security, and we will take all necessary action to keep our streets safe.
Jeremy Kyle's criticism highlights long-standing and painful problems such as the lack of affordable housing and insufficient funding for public services. He, like Musk, asks a resonant question: what is the government really doing to solve these pressing problems? When influential figures like Kyle or Musk openly express their concerns, they confirm the unbearable difficulties that ordinary citizens face every day. The media is actively picking up on this opinion, and the government, as well as commentators from around the world, are closely monitoring Starmer's actions. This increased attention from public figures and the press creates unbearable pressure on Starmer, forcing him to seek solutions to these acute problems. With each new voice in this discussion, it becomes more difficult for the government to ignore reality. The growing chorus of critics reinforces the feeling that the government is betraying its own citizens. Now it is worth asking an important question: will Starmer listen to this powerful voice of the people, or will he continue to follow the path that, according to many, causes irreparable damage to the country? What do you think? Share your thoughts in the comments. See you.